I'm Sophia Mitchell, 32, and I'm standing in the marble foyer of my mansion staring at my phone in disbelief. After 8 years of silence, my mother's text glows on the screen. Please, Sophia, we miss you. Can we visit? 8 years since they threw my belongings onto the street during Christmas dinner. 8 years since they declared I was dead to them. Now they want back in. I laugh bitterly, my finger hovering over the reply button. They have no idea what I'm about to do. Before I dive into my story, let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to rebuild your life after someone tore it down. Trust me, what happens when the tables turn is something you won't want to miss. 8 years ago, I wasn't Sophia Mitchell, design visionary and CEO. I was just Sophia, the family disappointment. While my parents, Richard and Patricia Mitchell, ruled over their real estate empire and groomed my brother Jason to be the heir apparent, I was pursuing my passion for innovative, sustainable design. Design isn't a real career, my father would say, swirling his brandy in crystal glasses that cost more than my monthly rent. It's a hobby for bored housewives. My mother would add with a practiced sigh, "Darling, we've given you every advantage. The best schools, the right connections. Why throw it all away?" The Mitchell family business had been building cookie-cutter luxury developments for 3 generations. Soul-crushing, environmentally disastrous, but incredibly profitable. My father expected me to join as their in-house designer, creating the same beige interiors with different throw pillows for the rest of my life. "We have a legacy to protect," was his favorite phrase. What he meant was, fall in line or else. I tried compromising. I got my business degree alongside my design credentials. I worked summers at the family company, learning the ropes while quietly developing my own sustainable design philosophy. But it was never enough. The breaking point came at our annual Christmas dinner. The Mitchell Christmas celebration wasn't about joy or family, it was a business event, with clients, partners, and socialites filling our mansion. Everyone who mattered in our circle was there, dressed in designer outfits, dripping with jewelry, judging every canapé and conversation. I'd just been offered my dream opportunity, an apprenticeship with a renowned sustainable design firm in San Francisco. It meant walking away from the family business permanently. I'd hoped, naively, that announcing it at Christmas might soften the blow. With witnesses around, surely they wouldn't make a scene. I was catastrophically wrong. "I have some news," I said during a lull in dinner conversation. "I've been offered an amazing opportunity with Ecolux Design. It starts next month in San Francisco." The table fell silent. My father's face turned the color of the expensive Cabernet in his glass. "You're turning down a guaranteed executive position in our company for some tree-hugging boutique?" His voice was deadly quiet. "It's actually one of the most innovative firms in the country," I started explaining. He slammed his hand on the table, rattling the crystal. "You're choosing poverty over family." My mother placed her hand on his arm. For a moment, I thought she might defend me. Instead, she whispered, "Richard, the Vandermeers are watching." Even then, appearances mattered more than I did. Jason, my brother, smirked from across the table. Always the rebel without a cause. "Maybe they'll let you design composting toilets." The guests tittered nervously while Aunt Margaret, my father's sister, shook her head. "Family loyalty should come before personal whims, Sophia. Your grandfather would be heartbroken." My father stood, napkin thrown onto his plate. "You have a choice to make right now. The family business or this foolish dream. Choose wrong and you're cut off. Completely." "Dad? That's not fair. Life isn't fair. Mitchell Developments or nothing. Choose." Looking around at their cold faces, my father's rage, my mother's embarrassment, Jason's satisfaction, something crystallized inside me. These people didn't love me. They wanted to own me. "Then I choose nothing," I said, standing on shaky legs. What happened next still plays in my nightmares. My father ordered the security guards, the ones usually protecting our property from outsiders, to escort me out. My mother disappeared upstairs, returning with a box of my childhood photos. "You won't be needing these memories anymore," she said, voice brittle as she handed them to a guard. Jason followed, carrying my old sketchbooks. "Since you won't be designing for us, "These are company property," he said, though they contained my most personal creative thoughts. As guests watched in stunned silence, my father announced, "Sophia Mitchell is no longer part of this family. She has been removed from the will, all accounts, and our lives. Anyone who aids her will face similar consequences." They threw everything I'd kept at their house onto the snow-covered driveway. Childhood mementos, design portfolios, even the gifts I'd brought for them that Christmas. I stood there, shivering in my cocktail dress, watching 30 years of belonging erased in 30 minutes. "You'll come crawling back when you're starving," Jason called from the doorway. The massive oak doors closed with a decisive thud. I gathered what I could carry, called a rideshare, and left behind everything I'd ever known. In my tiny apartment that night, surrounded by the soggy remnants of my former life, I cried until there was nothing left. Not just for the financial support I'd lost, but for the brutal revelation that my family's love had always been conditional. The 6 months following my disowning were brutal. My savings evaporated quickly in San Francisco's merciless rental market. The dream apprenticeship paid barely enough for ramen and bus fare. I took side gigs, barista in the mornings, TaskRabbit on weekends, and remote design work deep into the night. 4 hours of sleep became a luxury. My tiny studio apartment doubled as my office. The bathroom sink was where I washed both my face and my dishes. My bed was a futon that doubled as my meeting space when clients visited. But in those cramped conditions, something remarkable happened. Creativity born of necessity. I developed a signature approach, sustainable luxury that didn't scream its eco-credentials but whispered them in clever materials and energy-efficient beauty. My first clients were local cafes and startups, too small for established designers but perfect for hungry newcomers willing to work for exposure and experience. My Instagram portfolio slowly gained traction. Design blogs featured my innovative use of reclaimed materials. A small write-up in a local magazine brought in my first high-paying client. Things were looking up. Then came the text from my cousin Rachel. "This family drama is ridiculous," she wrote. "I miss you. Coffee tomorrow?" Rachel had always been the nice one, the cousin who seemed uncomfortable with the family's cutthroat values. When we met, her sympathy seemed genuine. She asked about my new life, my designs, my vision for the future. I showed her my portfolio, including my pitch for an upcoming hotel renovation bid, my biggest opportunity yet. "You're going to win this," she said, hugging me. "And I'm going to help you reconnect with the family when you're ready." I believed her. Family wounds run deep, and I was desperate for any connection to my old life. 3 days later, I discovered Rachel had taken photos of my pitch deck. She'd shown everything to my father and brother. Worse, they'd used family connections to approach the hotel owners directly. Mitchell Developments can offer the same sustainable concept, but with our proven track record, my brother had told them, according to an industry contact who witnessed the pitch. "My cousin's work that you've seen? She developed it while employed by us. Legally, those concepts belong to our company." It was a complete lie, but it worked. The hotel owners, nervous about the legal implications and impressed by my family's reputation, awarded them the contract. My first big break, stolen by the people who shared my blood. That wasn't enough for them. Anonymous 1-star reviews appeared on my business profiles overnight. Potential clients received warning emails about my history of stealing designs. A digital forensics friend traced several back to IP addresses at Mitchell Developments. Within weeks, my fledgling business was in crisis. Clients pulled out. Invoices went unpaid. My landlord posted an eviction notice. I sat on my futon, calculating how many days before I'd be homeless, wondering if this was where my dream died. That evening, as I was packing my few belongings, preparing to admit defeat, my phone rang. It was Grace Williams, a renowned designer whose sustainability lecture I'd attended months earlier. I'd sent her a follow-up email with some ideas, never expecting a response. "Sophia? I saw what happened with the Lotus Hotel project. Your family plays dirty." My stomach dropped. "You know about that? The design world is small, and your father has made enemies. Those concept boards you showed me were brilliant. I'd like to meet." Grace became more than a mentor. She became my lifeline. Over coffee in her elegantly minimalist office, she studied my portfolio in silence. "You have something special," she finally said. "A perspective this industry desperately needs. I can offer you a desk here, some consulting work, and a small loan to keep you afloat." "Why would you help me?" I asked suspiciously, now wary of kindness. "Because 20 years ago, I was you. Different circumstances, same desperation." She smiled. "Also, I've competed against your father's company for decades and despise their cookie-cutter approach. With Grace's support, I kept my apartment and gained a professional address. More importantly, I gained wisdom. The pain of Rachel's betrayal transformed something inside me. Where there had been hurt, hard determination took root." "Your family thinks they've won," Grace said one evening as we worked late. "They don't realize they've created their most formidable competitor." She was right. I wasn't fighting for my father's approval anymore. I was fighting for my survival, and I would do it on my own terms. I completely rebranded, developed new techniques, and steered clear of projects where Mitchell Developments had connections. "If they want war," I told Grace as we clinked glasses celebrating my first post-betrayal client, "they'll be surprised by who they created on the battlefield." 2 years of relentless work transformed both my business and me. Mitchell Sustainable Design became Eco-Luxe Interiors, with a growing reputation for innovation. I expanded from residential projects to commercial spaces, creating environments that were beautiful, functional, and had half the carbon footprint of traditional designs. My client list grew steadily. A tech CEO's home office design went viral, leading to contracts with 3 more Silicon Valley executives. A boutique hotel renovation won a regional design award. My small team of 4 operated from a stylish studio space in an up-and-coming neighborhood. I was no longer just surviving. I was thriving. Then came the industry gala, where paths I never expected to cross again converged. The Architectural Sustainability Awards were being held at the Fairmont, and my restaurant design was nominated. I wore a vintage Dior dress I'd found at a consignment shop. Classic, elegant, and sustainable. The validation of my peers filled the hole my family had left. Until I heard her voice. "Sophia, darling." What a delightful surprise. Aunt Margaret, my father's sister, glided toward me in designer silk, air-kissing both cheeks as if we'd parted on the best of terms. The same Aunt Margaret who had sat silently during my disowning, who had helped pack up my childhood bedroom the next day. "It's been too long," she continued, ignoring my stiffness. "The family misses you terribly." "Really?" I kept my voice neutral. "They have a strange way of showing it." She waved a manicured hand. "Your father is stubborn, but he's getting older. Your mother talks about you constantly. Even Jason asks about you." Something in me wanted desperately to believe her. The child inside, who still craved family approval, perked up its head. "And now look at you." She gestured around the gala. "Making quite a name for yourself in this niche market." I recognized the faint condescension but chose to ignore it. It's been a journey. Over the next month, Aunt Margaret reintegrated herself into my life with surgical precision. Lunch dates. Thoughtful texts. She attended my gallery exhibition, gushing over my designs. She shared childhood photos I thought were lost forever. Each interaction softened my resolve, brick by brick dismantling the wall I'd built. "Your father is too proud to make the first move," she confided over brunch. "But the family estate needs updating. Imagine if your designs were featured there. It would be the perfect reconciliation project." The idea was tempting. Redesigning the family mansion on my terms. Proving my worth through my work. I began preliminary sketches, imagining my father's reluctant admiration. Aunt Margaret grew more specific. Just some initial concept boards. Pro bono, of course. It's family. Once your father sees your vision, he'll certainly commission the full project. Warning bells rang faintly. Pro bono for a multi-million-dollar estate? Well, it's not like you'd charge family. And think of the exposure. The Mitchell estate is featured in magazines regularly. The familiar phrase, exposure instead of payment, triggered memories of early career exploitation. Still, I prepared a presentation, pouring weeks into a comprehensive sustainability upgrade for the mansion. The day before our scheduled meeting, I received a call from a business reporter seeking comment. "I'm doing a feature on family businesses," she explained. "Mitchell Developments is announcing a new sustainable luxury division tomorrow, headed by Margaret Mitchell. She mentioned you're consulting on the project." Ice filled my veins. I hadn't agreed to any consulting arrangement. Quickly searching industry news, I found the press release draft. Mitchell Eco Luxury, with designs inspired by Richard Mitchell's daughter Sophia. They weren't planning a reconciliation. They were planning to appropriate my brand, my expertise, and my identity to launch a competing division. The concept boards I'd created for the family home would become their marketing materials. With minimal credit and no compensation, I confronted Aunt Margaret at what should have been our presentation meeting. "You never intended to reconcile the family. You were mining me for free design concepts and market insights." Her sympathetic mask slipped. "Don't be dramatic, Sophia. Business is business. Your father built the platform you're standing on. Everything you know about design came from Mitchell Resources. I built this myself after you all threw me away," I countered, gathering my presentation materials. Her voice hardened. "Who do you think owns the intellectual property of a Mitchell? Everything you create stems from your upbringing, education, and genetics, all provided by your father. You owe the family this success." As I turned to leave, she added, "Richard is preparing to file for trademark infringement on several of your design elements. He's willing to drop it if you cooperate with the new division." I laughed bitterly. "Tell him to try. My designs are fully documented and protected. And unlike him, I actually understand sustainability beyond using it as a marketing buzzword." The next week brought a formal audit notice from the IRS. My accountant confirmed it was unusual for a company our size and likely resulted from an anonymous tip with very specific allegations. Then came building code inspections at 3 of my project sites. Clients received letters questioning my certification credentials, all bearing the invisible fingerprints of Mitchell Developments. Grace helped me navigate the legal challenges, connecting me with attorneys who specialized in design, law, and business protection. We passed the audit with flying colors, addressed the baseless building code concerns, and sent cease and desist letters regarding the credential smears. "They're escalating because you're succeeding," Grace observed as we reviewed security measures for our client files and designs. "You're not just surviving without them. You're redefining the industry they think they own." That night, I removed every trace of my family from my apartment. The few photos Aunt Margaret had returned, old letters, even books they had given me. I blocked their numbers and emails, instructed my staff to deny their calls, and hired a security consultant to protect our digital assets. "You were right about one thing, Aunt Margaret," I whispered to the empty room. "Business is business. And you just showed me exactly how to proceed." 2 more years passed. Ecolux Interiors expanded into Ecolux Design Group with 27 employees. We moved to a converted warehouse with solar panels and a living wall in the reception area. My vision of sustainable luxury had found its moment in the zeitgeist. The watershed moment came with the Horizon Project, a boutique hotel chain commissioning us to create a revolutionary carbon-neutral luxury experience. The design incorporated living materials, passive cooling, and energy systems that reduced consumption by 78% while enhancing guest comfort. When completed, it won the International Sustainable Design Award, the industry's highest honor. Architectural Digest featured our work in a 12-page spread. Forbes profiled me in their 40 Under 40 issue. A television special on the future of sustainable architecture prominently featured our projects. With financial security came personal milestones. I purchased my first home, a modest but beautiful craftsman house that I lovingly renovated. The award ceremony for the Horizon Project was held in New York, with industry leaders from around the world. Standing at the podium, accepting the crystal trophy, I finally felt complete vindication for the path I'd chosen. "This award belongs to everyone who believes luxury and responsibility can coexist," I said to applause. And to those who weren't afraid to reimagine what's possible when we reject outdated thinking. The celebration dinner afterward was interrupted by a commotion at the entrance. My father's unmistakable voice carried across the restaurant. "My daughter is here, Sophia Mitchell. I'm Richard Mitchell of Mitchell Developments." Security tried to turn him away. He wasn't on the guest list. But he bulldozed through as he'd always done, approaching our table with the confidence of someone who'd never been denied entry anywhere. 8 years had aged him. His hair was fully silver now, his face more lined, but the imperious expression remained unchanged. He wore an expensive suit with a green pocket square, a nod to sustainability that felt like mockery. "Quite an achievement," he said, ignoring the stunned silence that had fallen over our table. The Mitchell talent shining through at last. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice remained steady. "This is a private celebration, Richard. You weren't invited. Don't be ridiculous. I'm your father." He turned to my colleagues as if expecting them to accommodate him simply because of who he was. "I'd like to propose a toast to my daughter, whose foundation in design began at Mitchell Developments." Grace Williams stood, magnificent in her indignation. "Security, please escort this gentleman out. He's not welcome here." "Do you know who I am?" my father demanded. "Perfectly," Grace replied. "You're the man who disowned the most innovative designer of her generation. How embarrassing for you." As security approached, he addressed the table. "Sophia wouldn't have this award without the education and connections I provided. I built the foundation for all of this." Something in me snapped. 8 years of pain crystallized into perfect clarity. I stood, facing him directly. "You built nothing for me. You threw me out at Christmas dinner in front of your business associates. You had security remove childhood photos from my hands. You sent my brother to steal my designs. You've tried to sabotage my business repeatedly." My voice remained calm, professional. "You have no place here. Just as I apparently had no place in your family. Please leave before this becomes even more embarrassing for you." The room was silent as security guided him out. He went, but not before saying, "This isn't over, Sophia. Mitchell blood runs in your veins whether you acknowledge it or not." The incident made industry news. Not in my favor. "Mitchell family feud erupts at design awards" read one headline. Clients called with concerns about drama affecting projects. Competitors whispered about family instability. Then came the legal notices. My father claimed partial ownership of my designs, arguing they evolved from concepts developed while I was a family member. He petitioned to invalidate my business name because Mitchell is our family name and represents our brand. He approached my clients directly, suggesting they were risking legal entanglements by working with me. Some wavered, concerned about being caught in family litigation. The most painful blow came when my father scheduled meetings with luxury publications that had featured my work, claiming I had misrepresented my credentials and exaggerated my role in certain projects. I spent tens of thousands on legal defense, proving definitively that my designs were original and developed after the disownment. My attorneys documented the pattern of harassment and sent formal cease and desist letters. We prepared for protracted court battles. What my father hadn't anticipated was public sentiment. In trying to discredit me, he revealed his true character to the industry. Design blogs ran supportive pieces about my journey. Former Mitchell Developments employees came forward with stories about toxic workplace culture. Clients published statements standing by my work. The prestigious Bentley Hotel, after meeting with my father, not only remained with Ecolux but expanded our contract. "We choose our partners based on integrity as well as talent," their CEO told a reporter. Our decision was easy. The attempted sabotage backfired spectacularly. My brand grew stronger from the controversy. New clients approached specifically because they admired how I handled the situation with professionalism. A major design school invited me to give the commencement address, focusing on resilience in creative careers. "Sometimes the greatest designs emerge from the most challenging constraints," I told the graduates. "When someone says you can't, that's precisely when you discover how you can." The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to destroy what I'd built, my father had instead cemented my reputation as a principled innovator. The final touch came when a celebrity client, impressed by both my designs and my fortitude, commissioned me to create their new Malibu beach house, directly across from a development by Mitchell Developments. Every day during construction, my father's team could see my signature living roof and solar glass installation taking shape, a daily reminder of the success he couldn't control. Within 2 more years, Ecolux Design Group became Ecolux International. We opened offices in London and Singapore. Our client waiting list stretched 6 months. I launched a product line, everything from furniture to home accessories, that sold out its initial manufacturing run in 3 days. The company occupied 3 floors of a commercial building I purchased and renovated to LEED Platinum standards. My personal net worth crossed into 8 figures. I upgraded from my craftsman house to a stunning contemporary home overlooking the bay, with every sustainable feature imaginable seamlessly integrated into luxurious living spaces. My life had transformed completely from the desperate days after my disowning. I had created something meaningful entirely on my own terms. The family-shaped hole had been filled with achievement and purpose. On a Tuesday morning, my assistant interrupted a design meeting. "There's someone insisting on seeing you. Says he's your brother." Jason Mitchell sat in our reception area, studying the living wall with apparent boredom. 8 years had thickened his waistline and thinned his hair, but his expression still held the same entitled confidence I remembered. "Nice place," he said, standing as I approached. "Very green." "What do you want, Jason?" I kept my voice professional, aware of staff watching. "Can't a brother visit his successful sister?" He smiled with practiced charm. "Somewhere private we can talk?" Against my better judgment, I led him to my office. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a visual reminder of how far I'd climbed. Jason whistled appreciatively. "Impressive. Dad said you were doing well, but this is something else." "I doubt Dad said anything positive about me," I replied, not offering him a seat. "What's this really about?" "Straight to business." "I respect that." He opened his briefcase, removing a folder. "I've been analyzing your operation. Very sound fundamentally, but there's room for expansion with the right partnership." "Partnership?" I couldn't hide my incredulity. "With whom?" "Mitchell Developments, of course." He slid the folder across my desk. "I'm proposing a merger of interests. You handle the creative side. I handle business operations." The proposal outlined an effective takeover. Ecolux would become a subsidiary of Mitchell Developments, with Jason as COO of the combined entity. My role would be Chief Design Officer, essentially stripped of any business authority. "You can't be serious." "It makes perfect sense," he said, his condescending tone achingly familiar. "You've built an impressive design portfolio but lack our global infrastructure. Together, we'd dominate the luxury, sustainable market. After everything your family did to destroy me, you expect me to hand over my company?" He sighed like I was being unreasonable. "That's ancient history, Soph. Business is business." Dad's approach was heavy-handed, but he's old school. "I'm offering an olive branch here." Something felt off. The timing was too convenient, the proposal too one-sided. "Why now, Jason? Why after 8 years of silence and sabotage?" He hesitated just long enough for me to know there was more. "The sustainable luxury market is exploding. Mitchell Developments should be leading it. Your expertise would accelerate our position." "I need to review this with my team," I said, not hiding my skepticism. "I'll have an answer for you next week." After he left, I had our IT department scan all systems for breaches. By evening, they'd found sophisticated spyware installed on one of our guest network ports, the one nearest where Jason had been waiting. It had attempted to access our project servers and client database. Simultaneously, I hired a discreet investigator to research Mitchell Development's current situation. The report confirmed my suspicions. The company was struggling financially. Their outdated business model was losing market share to more innovative competitors. An attempted expansion into sustainable design had failed due to lack of authentic expertise. They needed my client list, design approach, and industry credibility to survive. When Jason returned the following week, expecting my answer, security escorted him to a conference room where I waited with our legal team. "Your spyware was detected and removed," I informed him, sliding a printout of the technical report across the table. "Corporate espionage is a serious crime, Jason." His face reddened. "I don't know what you're talking about. We have video of you accessing our network port. The malware signature matches previous attempts to breach our systems. Attempts traced back to Mitchell Development's IP addresses." He switched tactics instantly. "The family business is in trouble, Sophia. Dad made bad investments. We're facing bankruptcy." "That's not my problem. We're blood," he insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. "Family sticks together." The irony was so thick, I almost laughed. "We stopped being family the moment you helped throw my belongings onto the street. You chose sides, Jason. You've been choosing the same side for 8 years while trying to destroy what I've built. You always thought you were better than us," he spat, mask of civility falling away. "So high and mighty with your sustainability crusade. You could have saved the family business, but you're too selfish." "I'm selfish? Your father publicly disowned me. Your mother packed up my childhood photos. You stole my designs. You've tried to sabotage my career at every turn. And now you want me to save you?" He stood abruptly. "This isn't over. Mitchell blood means something. You have obligations to this family whether you acknowledge them or not. My only obligation is to myself and the company I built from nothing after you all abandoned me. Security will escort you out." As he was leaving, he turned with a final threat. "Dad's not the only one with connections in this industry. You've made a serious mistake." That evening, I called an emergency meeting with my executive team. We implemented enhanced security protocols, backed up all systems off-site, and prepared for potential attacks on our reputation or business relationships. More importantly, I fast-tracked a revolutionary project we'd been developing, a complete reinvention of luxury multifamily living that would directly compete with Mitchell Development's core business. The project had been scheduled for next year, but opportunity and necessity aligned. "They want to take what's ours," I told my team. "Instead, we'll show the world what the future of sustainable luxury really looks like." We worked around the clock, pouring every innovation we'd developed into a concept that would make Mitchell Developments look hopelessly outdated. When we unveiled the Azure project 3 months later, it received immediate acclaim and investment interest. My father's company might have thrown me away, but I had built something they couldn't break, couldn't steal, and now couldn't compete with. The student had surpassed the teacher in every conceivable way. A year passed in a blur of growth and innovation. The Azure project broke ground in 3 cities simultaneously. EcoLux International opened a Dubai office. My signature furniture line expanded into major retailers. I purchased a historic mansion in Pacific Heights, not because I needed the space, but because I'd always dreamed of restoring such a property to its former glory while making it a showcase for sustainable renovation. My personal life flourished alongside professional success. I developed deep friendships with people who valued me for myself, not my family name. I dated occasionally, though work remained my primary focus. The wounds of family rejection had scarred over, no longer raw but always present. The threats Jason had made manifested in increasingly desperate ways. Anonymous death threats arrived at our offices. Vandals spray-painted fraud across our sign one night. A suspicious fire in our materials warehouse was quickly contained but clearly arson. The police traced a threatening email to an IP address linked to a coffee shop near Mitchell Development's headquarters. Security footage showed Jason using a laptop there the same day the email was sent. When questioned, he claimed coincidence, but a restraining order was granted against him. More alarming was his attempt to sabotage our relationship with Westlake Development, a key partner in the Azure project. He approached their CEO claiming EcoLux had stolen proprietary technology from Mitchell Developments. When asked for evidence, he offered to provide it in exchange for Westlake dropping us as a partner. Fortunately, the Westlake CEO recorded the conversation and immediately informed me. Jason was essentially attempting to blackmail a company with fabricated evidence. Our attorneys sent formal legal warnings, copying industry partners to ensure transparency about the situation. Investigation revealed Mitchell Developments was now in serious financial trouble. They'd leveraged properties to fund unsuccessful projects, lost major clients to more innovative competitors, and faced multiple lawsuits from unhappy customers. My father's mismanagement had driven them to the brink of bankruptcy. I felt no satisfaction in this news. Despite everything, I couldn't celebrate the collapse of my grandfather's legacy. Those buildings, however uninspired, had been part of my childhood. Hundreds of employees who had nothing to do with my disowning would lose their livelihoods. On a rainy Wednesday afternoon, my assistant interrupted a client call. "Your mother is here, Patricia Mitchell. She doesn't have an appointment, but she insists it's urgent." I hadn't seen my mother in 8 years. The woman who entered my office looked smaller somehow, the designer clothes and perfect hair unable to disguise the strain in her face. She carried the same Hermes handbag she'd had when I left, now visibly worn. "Sophia," she said, voice breaking slightly, "you look wonderful." I remained standing behind my desk. "What do you want, Mother?" She glanced around my office. The awards, the magazine covers, the scale models of our projects. "You've done remarkably well. I always knew you would. Did you? When you were packing up my childhood photos or when you were sitting silently as Dad threw me out?" She flinched. "I deserved that. I failed you that day, and every day since. Why are you here?" She sat uninvited, hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Your father is ill. Heart problems, stress-related. He's too proud to ask for help, but the business is collapsing. Mitchell Developments won't survive another quarter without intervention." The revelation about my father's health hit harder than expected. Despite everything, hearing he was suffering brought a complicated ache. "I'm sorry about his health, but the business failure is his own doing. He worked his entire life building that company," she continued. "Your grandfather's legacy, your great-grandfather's dream. 3 generations of Mitchell innovation." I laughed without humor. "Innovation? Mitchell Developments hasn't innovated since the 1980 seconds. That's precisely why it's failing." "Please," she looked up, tears gathering. "Whatever you think of us, there are innocent employees who will lose everything. Your father may have made mistakes, but—" "Mistakes?" I interrupted. "He disowned me in front of everyone we knew. He spent 8 years trying to destroy my career. Those weren't mistakes, Mother. They were choices." She reached into her purse, removing a tissue to dab her eyes. I noticed her slipping something small back into an inner pocket, what looked like a recording device. "Are you recording this conversation?" I asked incredulously. Her hesitation confirmed my suspicion. "Richard thought it might help if we had your exact words." For the family attorney, the betrayal felt fresh all over again. "You came here to manipulate me, record me saying something that could help your legal position, and you thought I wouldn't notice?" "It's not like that," she protested weakly. "It's exactly like that. You haven't changed at all." I pressed the intercom. "Security, please escort Mrs. Mitchell out." As she gathered her things, her facade crumbled. "You'll regret turning your back on family, Sophia. When you have nothing but your money and your awards, you'll understand what really matters." "I already understand," I replied calmly. "That's why I built a life with people who actually care about me, not what I can do for them." After she left, I sat for a long time, processing the encounter. My mother's visit had been calculated, not genuine. One more attempt to use me rather than connect with me. The realization should have hurt, but instead it brought clarity. That night, I contacted a business attorney who specialized in distressed assets. "I want to know what Mitchell Development's debt structure looks like and who holds their notes," I instructed. "I'm interested in purchasing their debt." Over the next several weeks, working through shell companies to maintain anonymity, I systematically acquired the company's outstanding loans and financial obligations. It cost millions, but gave me control over the fate of the business that had once controlled me. I now held the power to force them into bankruptcy or dictate reorganization terms. I could dismantle the company piece by piece or demand my father's resignation as a condition of refinancing. The little girl who had been thrown away now held her family's legacy in her hands. The question was, what would I do with that power? Within 6 months, I controlled every aspect of Mitchell Development's financial future through a complex web of holding companies. They had no idea I was now effectively their most significant creditor. Meanwhile, Ecolux International continued its meteoric rise. We expanded into hospitality management and sustainable urban planning. Forbes featured me on their cover as Design Entrepreneur of the Decade. The ultimate irony came when I purchased an historic estate in my family's neighborhood, a magnificent property that had always outshone the Mitchell mansion. I completely renovated it with cutting-edge, sustainable technology while preserving its historic character. Solar glass in the original window frames. Geothermal heating beneath the heritage gardens. Rainwater harvesting systems disguised within classical architecture. The property became a showcase and occasional event venue for Ecolux, featured in Architectural Digest with a 16-page spread. I knew my parents would see it, would understand the message. I had not only survived but thrived beyond their wildest expectations. Through industry contacts, I learned the Mitchell family situation had grown desperate. They were selling family heirlooms and artworks. My parents had downsized from their mansion to a smaller home in the same exclusive neighborhood. Still impressive by normal standards, but a significant step down for them. Jason had moved back home, his own financial situation apparently linked to the failing company. My investigator delivered concerning news. Mitchell Developments had engaged in questionable financial practices during their decline. My father had misrepresented assets to lenders, backdated documents to satisfy regulatory requirements, and potentially violated building codes on recent projects to cut costs. The evidence presented an ethical dilemma. Reporting these violations would likely result in criminal charges against my father. Despite everything, I struggled with the idea of him facing prosecution at his age, especially with health problems. After consulting with trusted advisors, I developed a strategy that balanced accountability with mercy. Through intermediaries, I provided evidence to regulatory authorities with a specific condition. If Mitchell Developments submitted to a structured settlement, implemented proper compliance protocols, and made restitution to affected parties, criminal charges would be minimized. The resulting legal proceedings devastated what remained of the company's reputation. My father avoided prison through a plea agreement that included significant financial penalties and professional censure. Mitchell Developments was required to complete all existing projects under regulatory supervision but prohibited from taking new ones. Within weeks, the Mitchell family mansion, the house I'd grown up in, was listed for sale. Real estate blogs noted the irony of a sustainable design leader's family selling their outdated, energy-inefficient home. The final blow to their social standing came when their country club membership was revoked following my father's legal troubles. My mother called late one evening, her voice hollow. "We have nowhere to go. Your father's health is declining rapidly from the stress. Jason's condo is too small for all of us. The hotels won't have us because of the publicity." I said nothing, letting her continue. "I know we have no right to ask anything of you," she whispered. "But we're still your family. Is there anything you can do?" The moment I had fantasized about for years felt strangely empty. Their complete dependence on my mercy brought no satisfaction, only a complicated melancholy. "I'll have my assistant call you tomorrow," I said, finally. Through another shell company, I purchased the Mitchell mansion for 20% below asking price. They were desperate to sell quickly. Rather than gutting it as originally planned, I had it minimally updated with essential sustainable features. Then, through a property management company, I had an offer extended to my parents. They could stay on as caretakers of the estate, while new ownership decided its fate. The position included living quarters in their former home and a modest stipend. They accepted immediately, not knowing I was their new landlord. For 3 months, I watched remotely as my parents adjusted to their new reality. Security cameras I had installed during renovations showed them moving into the caretaker's wing, formerly guest quarters. My father spent hours in his old study, now mostly empty of the expensive furnishings and art that had once proclaimed his success. My mother tended the gardens she had previously hired others to maintain. Jason had apparently disappeared after news broke about embezzlement allegations at Mitchell Developments. Investigators suspected he had diverted company funds to personal accounts over several years, contributing to their financial downfall. His current whereabouts were unknown. I felt no triumph seeing my parents humbled. Instead, a strange emptiness persisted. I had achieved everything I'd ever wanted professionally, had more wealth than I could spend in a lifetime, and had finally secured justice for the wrongs done to me. Yet something was still missing. Grace noticed my distraction during a strategy meeting. "You've won, Sophia. Why don't you seem happy about it?" "I thought revenge would feel better," I admitted. "Revenge rarely satisfies," she said wisely. "It's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. On my mother's birthday, on impulse, I sent an anonymous gift basket to the mansion. Her favorite French pastries and a bottle of the champagne she had always loved. Security footage showed her weeping upon receiving it, clearly touched by the unexpected kindness. What I hadn't anticipated was that the gift would include a digital receipt with tracking information sent to the purchaser's email, my personal account, which still contained my full name. When my mother checked the shipment details online, she discovered I was behind both the gift and, more significantly, the property company that now owned their home. Within hours, my phone rang with a call from my father's number, the first direct contact in 8 years. I didn't answer my father's call, nor the dozen that followed over the next day. Instead, I watched through security cameras as my parents held what appeared to be an emergency strategy session in their quarters. My mother paced animatedly while my father sat in his wheelchair, gesturing with the commanding authority that had once ruled my childhood. Later that evening, my mother called a number I recognized as belonging to my Aunt Margaret. The conversation lasted over an hour. The following day, a parade of relatives visited the mansion, cousins, uncles, my aunt, all gathering in the formal dining room where I had been disowned years earlier. Curiosity got the better of me. I hired a private investigator to determine what this family reunion might signify. He reported back within days. They're planning a reconciliation strategy, he explained, playing an audio recording he'd obtained. Though reconciliation might be a generous term, the recording revealed my family's true intentions. My father's voice, weaker than I remembered, but still dominant. Sophia controls everything now. The house, our future, possibly even company assets, through those holding companies. We need to bring her back into the fold. My Aunt Margaret. She's always been emotional, desperate for approval. We use that. My mother. She sent that birthday gift. There's still sentiment there we can work with. My cousin Rachel. Once we're back in, we can legally challenge the property transfer. Undue influence, emotional manipulation. My father again. The Mitchell name still carries weight. She built her company on our reputation, whether she admits it or not. Once we're back in, we'll take what's ours. The coldly calculated plan involved a coordinated love-bombing campaign. Daily messages expressing regret and affection. Stories from my childhood emphasizing family bonds. Planned chance encounters with relatives who would reinforce the reconciliation narrative. All designed to manipulate me into lowering my defenses so they could legally challenge my ownership of their home and potentially my business assets. Despite knowing better, something in me still hoped there might be genuine feeling beneath the strategy. I allowed their messages to accumulate unopened. I watched as flowers arrived at my office with notes of apology. My mother sent childhood photos with heartfelt captions. My father, in a stunning reversal, sent a letter acknowledging my design talent. Grace warned me during our weekly dinner. They smell desperation and opportunity. Don't confuse tactical retreat with genuine change. Still, when my mother requested a family dinner to begin healing, part of me wanted to believe transformation was possible. That perhaps losing everything had finally taught them the value of unconditional love. The investigator continued monitoring their communications. The evening before our scheduled dinner, he captured the family's final planning session. Remember, my father instructed everyone. We need her signature on the reconciliation agreement our attorney drafted. It includes clauses about family assets that will give us legal standing to challenge her control. My mother added, Sophia always wanted my approval more than anything. I'll make her believe she finally has it. Aunt Margaret. Once the agreement is signed, we move immediately on the legal front before she realizes what happened. With the full recording in hand, I made my decision. I would attend the dinner, but not as they expected. The evening arrived. My parents had arranged for a caterer to prepare the meal in their former kitchen. They had access to the formal dining room for the occasion. They'd even brought family photos from storage to create the illusion of continuity. I arrived precisely on time. My mother embraced me tearfully. My father, looking frailer than I'd expected, extended his hand with what appeared to be genuine emotion. Relatives gathered around expressing joy at the family reunited. Before we begin, I said once everyone was seated, I'd like to clarify something important. I placed my phone on the table and played the recording of their strategy session. The color drained from every face as their own voices exposed their scheme. "You haven't changed at all," I said when the recording finished. 8 years, and you still see me as something to use, rather than someone to love. My father attempted damage control. That was just contingency planning. Our feelings about reconciling are genuine. Are they? Because it sounds like your feelings center entirely on regaining control of assets you lost through your own mismanagement and cruelty. My mother reached for my hand. "Darling, families are complicated. We may have discussed legal options, but our desire to reconnect comes from love." I withdrew my hand. "I think it comes from desperation. You've lost everything else, so now you're trying to exploit the one thing you never valued, me." "You're twisting this," Aunt Margaret interjected. "Every family has difficult conversations." "Yes. Like the conversation 8 years ago when you all decided I wasn't family anymore. Or the conversation I just played where you plotted to manipulate me into signing away my legal rights." I stood, surveying the table of relatives who had once been my world. "I have one more clarification to make. This house doesn't belong to a property management company. It belongs to me, personally. I am your landlord." The shock that registered on their faces would once have given me satisfaction. Now it just felt sad. I purchased this house because, despite everything, I couldn't bear to see strangers living in my childhood home. I allowed you to stay because, despite everything, I remembered you were human beings who needed shelter. My father found his voice. "You've been spying on us? In our own home?" "No, Richard, in my home, which I've allowed you to occupy on my terms, just as you once expected me to live on yours." I moved toward the door. "The caretaker arrangement remains valid for 3 months. That should give you adequate time to find alternative housing. The security cameras will stay active to ensure no damage to the property." "You can't do this," my father sputtered. "We're your parents. You surrendered that privilege 8 years ago. You've shown me who you truly are. One last time. I won't forget the lesson again." As I left, my mother called after me. "Where will we go?" "Please, Sophia." I paused at the doorway. That was the question I faced 8 years ago, standing in the snow with my belongings around me. You offered no answer then. I offer none now. Walking to my car, I felt no triumph, only the clean certainty of finally closing a painful chapter. They had shown me exactly who they were, consistently, for 8 years. I was finally ready to believe them. 1 month later, my family vacated the mansion. I sold the property to a conservation trust that would transform it into a sustainable design education center. The final tie to my past was severed cleanly and repurposed for a greater good. My true home wasn't the historic mansion in Pacific Heights that appeared in magazines, nor the various properties I owned around the world. It was a beautiful, peaceful estate by the ocean, smaller than the showcase properties but designed precisely to my needs. Sustainable systems worked invisibly to create perfect comfort. Gardens provided both beauty and food. The sound of waves replaced the noise of status and competition. This sanctuary had never been photographed for publications or opened for industry events. It remained private, known only to the people I genuinely trusted. People like Grace, now semi-retired but still my most valued mentor. My core team members who had been with me since the struggling early days. Friends who had supported me through crisis and celebrated genuine accomplishments. These were my real family, chosen deliberately, proven through actions rather than accident of birth. As I prepared dinner for this chosen family's monthly gathering, my phone chimed with a text from my mother. "Please, Sophia, we need to visit your new mansion. We've heard it's spectacular. Families should share in success." The message revealed they still hadn't understood. They thought my power and happiness came from impressive buildings and expensive possessions, the material mansion they imagined I owned. They couldn't comprehend that I had built something far more valuable, a life of purpose, surrounded by authentic connection. After consideration, I texted back, "You can't visit my home, but I'm willing to meet at the cafe on Union Street next Tuesday at 2 p.m. if you want to talk." The cafe was neutral territory, public enough to discourage drama. When Tuesday came, my mother arrived alone. clearly disappointed by the modest venue. Her eyes constantly scanned for signs of other patrons recognizing me. "Your father couldn't come?" I asked as she settled across from me. "He's still adjusting to our new apartment," she replied vaguely. "It's quite small, nothing like what you must have now. How are you both doing?" "Struggling," she admitted. "The monthly stipend barely covers essentials. Nothing for the lifestyle we're accustomed to." I nodded. "Adjusting to new financial realities is difficult. You could help, of course," she suggested, eyes brightening. "Family supports family through difficult times." "That's true," I agreed. "When family acts like family." She reached across the table, taking my hand. "We've made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But blood is blood, Sophia. We can't change that. No, we can't change our genetic connection. But family is about more than DNA. It's about how we treat each other. We were wrong to reject your career path," she offered, the closest to an apology I'd heard. "Clearly, you knew what you were doing." I noticed her focus on my success rather than the pain they'd caused. "This isn't about my career success. If I were still struggling, would you be sitting here now?" She hesitated too long before answering. "Of course. I needed to prove something to myself, not to you," I said gently. "I needed to know I could build something meaningful on my own terms. And now that you've proven it, surely we can move forward as a family again," she pressed. "Perhaps a loan to help us get re-established? Something befitting your new status?" The transaction was laid bare. Reconciliation in exchange for financial support. Love contingent on utility. "I've spent years in therapy understanding that what happened wasn't my fault," I explained. "I was a daughter who wanted to follow her passion, not a defective component in the family machine." "Therapy?" She seemed genuinely confused. Was it really that traumatic? Being thrown away by the people who should love you unconditionally? "Yes, Mother, it was exactly that traumatic." Our conversation continued awkwardly. She asked about my mansion repeatedly. I changed the subject each time. When the check came, she looked at me expectantly. "I should get back," I said after paying. "I have foundation work this afternoon." "Foundation?" "I started the EcoLux Foundation last year. We provide scholarships and mentoring to creative young people from unsupportive family situations." Something flickered in her eyes. Perhaps the first genuine understanding of the damage they'd caused. "You're helping kids like you were." "I am. Every year, we find brilliant young designers, architects, and innovators whose families don't value their gifts. We give them what I never had, support without conditions." As we parted, she asked again about visiting my home. I declined gently but firmly. Some boundaries need to remain in place. For my well-being. That evening, surrounded by my chosen family for our monthly dinner, I shared the encounter. Grace raised her glass in a toast to boundaries well maintained and lessons well learned. My phone chimed with a text from my mother. "Thinking about our conversation. Your father and I are struggling financially. Anything you could do would be appreciated." I set the phone aside without responding. Looking around at the faces gathered at my table, people who had stood by me through crisis, celebrated my successes without envy, and loved me without conditions, I finally understood what a real family looked like. "I built a mansion," I told them, "but not of glass and stone. I built it from trust, loyalty, and authentic connection. It's the one thing my blood family could never afford, because they never understood its true value." The ocean waves crashed outside as laughter filled the room. The mansion of love I'd built was more sustainable than any physical structure could ever be. It was, at last, enough. What about you? Have you ever had to create boundaries with family members who couldn't respect your dreams? How did you handle rebuilding your life after a significant rejection? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this story resonated with you. Remember, sometimes the family we choose brings more healing than the family we're born into. Thank you for listening, and may you always find the strength to build your own mansion of authentic connections.